All right, time now is 7 o'clock. This is Thursday, November 4th. The meeting of the Board of Adjustments is now in session. Item number 2, citizens' appearance. Did we get any comments from anybody, Suzanne?
No, Mr. Chairman, we did not.
Okay. All righty. We'll go item number 3, then approval of the June 3rd minutes. Tell you what, before we get started, let's go ahead and get a roll call, please. As your name's called, let me know that you're here, please. Vice Chair Michelle Anderson.
Present.
Kimberly Grubb.
Present.
Casey Smith.
Present.
Red Hickey.
Present.
And I'm here too, so okay. All right, so approval of the June 3rd minutes. Everybody had a chance to go over the minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any comments, suggestions, changes? Motion to approve, maybe?
Kimberly Grubb will make a motion.
I have a motion to approve from Ms. Grubb. Do I have a second?
Second by Michelle Anderson.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Aye? Okay, the minutes are passed. Item number 4. Before we get started, we have a variance request. So a variance request, just to kind of recap what we're looking at, a variance request is permissible only if strict application of the zoning ordinance would cause unnecessary hardship. So when considering an application for variance, we consider we need to have some evidence of a property hardship, whereby the property itself can't be used for any kind of use, okay? A variance is not authorized just to accommodate highest and best use of the property, but when the zoning ordinance doesn't permit any reasonable use of the lot. And so when we look at whether or not a hardship exists, we take a couple of things in consideration. That number one, the hardship is not self-imposed. The hardship is unique to the property. For example, the size or the topography of the property is something that would prevent you from developing it. The hardship is not financial in nature, and it doesn't include property that can't be used for highest and best use or for frustrated development objectives. Okay, so you need 4 votes to pass a variance, and so we will listen to we'll listen to Suzanne Arnold, if you will. Oh, before we go any further, let's do this. If anybody's going to speak before the Board of Adjustment, please stand up and take the oath, please. Are y'all going to speak before the Board of Adjustments?
I mean, I put out everything on paper, but I can repeat everything.
Y'all can come a little closer. You don't have to sit in the back.
Oh, okay.
There's plenty of room.
I thought you guys were chatting, so. Yeah, I can repeat everything I put out on
Okay,
paper.
anyway, before we get started,
Yeah.
are you going to speak before the Board of Adjustments tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, stand up, raise your right hand, please. Repeat it. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before the Board of Adjustments is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Sit down, please. All right, now we'll hear from Suzanne Arnold.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I would like to admit the following presentation as well as the published memo and exhibits into evidence for this case. Tonight's variance is for 270 Lindsay Drive. This variance is for the location of a fence. The board has heard a similar case to this before. It relates to the platted 15-foot side setback for fences on corner lots in the Vistas of Coppell subdivision. The applicant is requesting to construct a wood fence in proximity to the east side property line in violation of the 15-foot platted fence setback for side yards adjacent to streets. As you can see on the image, there is an existing wood fence that is in compliance with the setback requirement. The green line is the proposed fence that they would be adding if this variance is approved. Here's a look at the plat for the Vistas of Coppell Phase 3. The subject property is located at the corner of Lindsay and Spring Hill Drive and is starred in this image. There are 5 other lots in this phase of the subdivision that are affected by this same regulation. Zeroing in on the plat, you can see that the BL, which is the typical building line setback, is accompanied by an FL, indicating a fence line setback at the same location 15 feet off of the property line. In this image, the existing fenced yard is in blue. The applicant is seeking on his application more usable area for kids to play, cited an issue with the current fence's proximity to the house, possibly facilitating access for rodents, maintenance issues in the unfenced portion of the side yard, as well as privacy from street traffic on the side street. If this variance is granted, it would result in an increase in the usable yard area as shown in green in this image. Here's a look at the proposed area for the new fence from the front and a more focused view from the side. This is where the new fence would run along that side property line. This first image is a view from the back corner of the lot, and the second one is looking down Spring Hill Drive toward the back of the subject property, toward Lindsay. The Board of Adjustment has granted prior variances to the fence setback requirement in the Vistas of Coppell subdivision. Variances have been granted in Phase 1A of the Vistas, including 4 with sides facing Bella Vista Drive. However, there is no precedent for variances to the platted fence line setback in Phase 3. In May of this year, the Board of Adjustment approved a variance to the 15-foot side fence setback at 518 Waterview Drive in Phase 1A. It's located at the corner of Waterview and Bella Vista Drive. Now, I say that because there are key similarities and key differences between the prior cases and this one. Common threads include a desire to increase the usable space as well as the maintenance of the unfenced side yard. However, there are some key differences in these cases when it comes to the context. Let's take a look at some of the variances in Phase 1A. You can see that these 4 properties are all in a line. They all abut Bella Vista Drive on the side, and all of the houses are oriented in the same direction. The starred property, 518 Waterview, is the one that was approved this year. The location of these fences in relation to the street creates a consistent line of sight down Bella Vista. And this was a contributing argument in the approval of the 518 Waterview case in May. So let's take a look at an aerial of the surrounding area for the subject property, which is starred in red. In this case, the rear yard of the subject property backs up to the front yard of the property to the north. Driving down Bella Vista, there's a line of sight across the front yards of those houses that is continuous with the landscaped side yard of the subject property on Lindsay. So once again, here's a look from the front. And here's an approximation of the location of the proposed fence if this variance is approved. And again, looking from the back, and approximately where the fence would be located if this is approved. If this variance is approved, the proposed fence would be made to comply with all of the other codes and ordinances. By ordinance, posts and rails must be on the inside of the fence for any fence facing a street. The board may choose to approve the request as stated, to deny it, or to modify or attach conditions. Staff does recommend denial due to potential impact on the line of sight of Spring Hill Drive. It is, of course, up to the board to weigh the impact of any hardship proposed against the impact to the community. Does the board have any questions for staff?
Just to clarify, the front yard setback for that side street is also 15 feet?
No, it's either 20 or 25. I apologize, I don't know that exactly.
So,
I can probably see on here better.
Mr. Chairman, I might have the plat. I can answer that question for you.
Oh, let me see. No, it is 25. It is 25.
so front yard setback is 25 feet,
Yes,
and side yard setback for the subject property is 15 feet right now?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? We mentioned that on Waterview that 518 was granted a variance to be in line with the other houses there. Do we know what the variance, what started that trend? If the other ones were also allowed that it looked like 532 and 537, the other ones that were also allowed that, one of them had to be first, I guess?
I'm uncertain where that started. The other three were approximately 20 years ago,
Gotcha.
before my time in Coppell, so.
Good question.
I do believe that in one case it had to do with the location of a pool necessitating it, but I don't know if that's what started it.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Arnold?
A quick one, just because we haven't seen it maybe. Would we think there might be visual impairment coming out of the alley? If this is extended all the way, it backs up, there's an abutment to the alley in the street. If this goes all the way out to the sidewalk, does there appear to be any sort of impairment visually for traffic leaving the alleyway?
That is a possibility. The board can require a visibility clip if you so choose.
Okay, sorry.
Any other questions?
What is a visibility clip? What did you refer to?
A slight angle on the corner.
Any other questions for Ms. Arnold? All right. I'd like now to have the applicant come forward, state your name and address for the record and the microphone, and give us your testimony, please.
My name is Naveen Govardhan. I am the owner of 270 Lindsay Drive. So I put in the application.
Okay. What you have to kind of show us where the property hardship is. Could you explain to us what
Sure. Yeah.
the reason why you're here?
Several reasons. I think some of them Suzanne covered. I think the main one is the privacy, where all our windows face on both sides of the crossroads, right, between Sprinkle Drive and Lindsay Drive. Every day in the morning when the school kids come over, people park all around our houses, front and on the side. Literally, we have to keep our windows shut. That's number one. Number two is the shortage of the property itself, the yard itself. When we have so much of land all around us, all we have is this tiny piece of land behind our house. That's the second one. Third one, which I listed, was the rodent issue, because the fence immediately lines up to the house. All the rodents kind of get into the attic and all that. So if I move the fence out, I mean, it's not going to solve it, it's going to be better. That's one more. And then the other one is once you're fenced, then the whole yard that you saw in the picture, right, is literally unmonitored. In the night, we see people walking on it, pets and all that. So that's one more. And the other thing, which is not listed here, right, what I found from Suzanne was there are other houses, not just these four houses, except for Block 3, Vistas of Coppell. The remaining blocks, I think blocks 1 and 2 and 3, they're all allowed. It's just Block 3 that has this problem. So that's the other one. And I failed to understand what this line of sight is, because all the other houses behind me is facing in the other direction. So they're not looking this way. So if somebody could explain that.
Okay, so I'm searching now for a property hardship, because this is what I'm saying. I say you looked at the house. Has anything changed between the time that you looked at the house and bought it till now?
Except me living there, yes.
Oh, of course, of course,
I mean,
silly me.
I don't know if this, like the privacy thing, right? Yeah.
But obviously, so you looked at at how the house was, and you looked at how the fence was, and you looked at its location, and you decided at that point that this was for you, and you bought it. So how has the property changed since you bought the house?
The property has not changed, yeah, you're absolutely right. What has changed is, since I haven't lived there, all I did was look at the house, right? And all the things I'm specifying is not something you observe when you're buying the house. Like when the school opens up in the morning, when everybody's crowded around your house, you don't wait 24 hours to buy a house, right? You don't look at all that. This is all things we observe once you move into the house, not when you're buying the house, if that's what you're trying to state.
Well, okay. So, okay. Well, that's all the questions I have right now. Anybody else?
I have a quick question. The windows on that face the street, what rooms are those? Are those common spaces, bedrooms, your kitchen?
Kitchen, the main problem we have is kitchen because it's our nook, right, which is where we spend our time trying to get to school and office and all that. That's the biggest problem. We always have to keep it shut because morning 2 hours, evening 2 hours, people are just parking left, right, and center. Privacy part of it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Your assessment of the other properties that aren't regulated as such in the Vistas of Coppell Phase 3, which ones that you were specifically
Not phase
citing on
three.
those?
Yeah, not phase 3. Like, I think I spoke to Suzanne or somebody else, and I actually showed pictures of other homes which had it.
Okay.
I don't think it was any of these. And I actually said, I didn't even know this restriction existed. And I showed them pictures of other fences which were closer, and they were corner lots. And I thought it applies to my house as well. I thought it was an easy slam dunk. And then I think Suzanne or somebody replied, no, phase 3 is different. You guys have to be like far inside.
I had read somewhere in the case history that it related to a HOA requirement. Is that correct, staff?
It wasn't an HOA requirement. It is a requirement that came in at the time of platting.
Okay.
Yeah, I did apply to the HOA, if I can interrupt, and they said, no, we are free to approve, get the approval from the city.
I see. So they're deferring to the city. Okay. Thank you.
And just to kind of clarify just a second, the zoning ordinances are in place to provide a use and architectural harmony in the city that stays consistent. And that's why these things are developed. And so I know we have granted variances on these properties before, and just of the ones that I've done, not to go into it in any detail, but basically we had some areas, as y'all have discovered, that don't have this requirement, and some areas that do. And we came across an issue where the two areas abutted each other. And one guy had his set fence back and one guy didn't. But as it turns out, to adjust it would not have affected the harmony and of the neighborhood. For example, the line of sight. For example, so that the site that Ms. Arnold pulled up earlier, where all of our variances were in a row earlier, you'll notice that all of those houses, the sides of those houses abutted that street. No, nothing was facing front, and so you could get a clean fence line following the normal city standards. And so the variance in those cases were granted because it didn't adversely affect what the intent of the variance was. In this case, what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing you got front yard setbacks at 25 feet, okay? And the line of sight is already somewhat encroached on by your current fence line. But if you were to move your fence line all the way to the sidewalk, it would disrupt the line of sight greatly, as I see it. And also, I'm seeing that that if you were to put that fence in, you would create actually a visual block for anybody coming in and out of the alleyway. And as your application stated, you're concerned about the amount of traffic in the morning, and so anybody coming out of that alleyway would be even further hindered by line of sight if they were trying to get out of the alley during school time. So, remember, we're going back to what our original intent here is that we have to determine whether or not there's a property hardship or not. And that's what we need to discover. Anybody else?
Real quick, not that it would be the final, but would it have to be all the way out? Is your desire to go all the way to the sidewalk, or is it some degree between where it is now and fully to the sidewalk? Seeing as that if the main one you highlight is the windows there at the kitchen, those could still be enwrapped in the fence without it being all the way out.
Yeah, I mean, the kitchen window for sure is something we wanted to cover
Okay.
so that we can keep it open, right? Not really keep it closed. Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
definitely.
Have you thought about just a landscaping trellis in front of your window to increase your privacy?
We will have to resort to such options if this doesn't go through, yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Is there anybody else here to speak for or against the variance request? Is there anybody on Zoom?
No, sir, we are live and in person.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if the board does consider granting the variance, I think that you really need to consider maybe looking at a site clip at the alley, at least at the alley. There may be enough in the front yard that there's no visual impairment, because those clips are for traffic,
Okay.
not necessarily looking at the fence. So if you are inclined, I think you need a clip at the alley, and then you may also look at one is at Lindsay, Spring Hill. I think there's enough room at Lindsay and Spring Hill intersection, but
Okay. We will certainly, when the motion is raised, we'll make sure that that's put in with the motion. As there's no more testimony for or against the variance, I'm gonna close the public hearing and open it to the board for discussion. You can sit down now.
Oh, thank you.
I'm having a hard time finding a property hardship with this.
My apologies. I agree. I'm also having a hard time finding a property hardship, but considering that we did grant a variance for essentially aesthetic purposes with, I think it was Waterside, I am a little conflicted about being more hard-nosed here than we were there.
But that one lined up with the other ones, and this would be the first one for this area. I get that somebody needs to be first, but I think the way this property is situated, I don't see it. I don't.
Because there aren't, it's facing one direction, and the
others
other ones are
facing the other direction.
front, so there wouldn't be a fence there ever.
Yes.
Correct.
I'll entertain a motion if everybody's exhausted of their comments.
All right, I will move that the Board of Adjustment, in this case, grant the variance for the platted fence line setback for the Vistas of Coppell Phase 3 to allow for the construction of a maximum of 9-foot-tall wood fence in the proximity to the east property line facing Spring Hill Drive within the subdivision's platted 15-foot fence setback for side property lines facing public streets on the property located at 270 Lindsay Drive in Coppell, as requested by owner Naveen Kumar Govardhan. Did I get it right? Oh, hot dog. Thank you.
Would that be with that visibility cut?
With a visibility,
it's a
15-foot visibility clip.
I have a motion to approve the variance requested with the exception that they're going to add a 15-foot visibility clip. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. All in favor, with a show of hands, please. All in favor of the variance? Let the record show there's no one in favor of the variance. All opposed to the variance? Let the record show that it's an unanimous vote against the variance. I'm sorry, the variance didn't pass. You can see Ms. Arnold later on for maybe some other alternatives. Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you. Good.
Mr. Chairman, I will prepare the required order and provide it to the board secretary for your signature.
Thank you. Item number 5 is adjournment, so we're adjourned.